Welcome to a new video here from Inkwell Ideas. It's been a while for us. Lots of stuff going on between Gen Con and some travel postponed after Gen Con and getting all of the decks out from our prior Hexploration Decks and Map Tiles crowdfunding. So we've been pretty busy. But what we've got now is a new Kickstarter, and this time on Kickstarter proper, which is for more Hexploration decks. We're doing 2 new decks along the way for locations that you might see along the way. And then the second deck is for Strongholds. The sample deck is a combination of both of those. So you have some roads. You've got some locations along the roads for that along the way deck. Then we've got Strongholds here, which could be big fortified cities or little outposts or everything in between. And this gives you an idea of what you're getting with all of those. And then as before, the bulk of the cards in each deck, 40 of them are location cards, which is what you're seeing with these, where you have art on one side and you have charts of vibrant ideas on the other side. And there's about 10 cards that are traits that can be applied to any other location or even an area. For example, what if that forest has a lot of camp followers from an army camp that was left behind? Or what if this region is rife with banditry? We give you a bunch of ideas on how to add some more details related to that. Andrew Shields is the writer for these. I should point out also that the Forge Studios, I would mispronounce our artist's name, so you can look in the notes for his name. The writing. It's all very imaginative, interesting stuff that really riffs off and ties into what you're seeing. For example, so this here, I saw this art and I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to do a card about this. Andrew came up with the calcification spires, which I'm also probably mispronouncing there. But it's got all these imaginative ideas about what these spires might be and hidden treasures within. For example, it might be that there's broken controls. And if they're repaired, the spires might be capable of flight. So that gives you a whole interesting campaign location in that one sentence. And they might burn souls for fuel, which might be a bit dark. So you can use that or not. You can always twist these, use these as ideas to get your imagination flowing, and you might use them as is, or you might riff off them yourself. So you get a lot of really interesting, fun ideas. Here's a shrine, and of course, might be blood drinking rituals there. You know, they might be selling blessings to anyone who can pay. So you've got a wide range of options of what these locations might be. And you've got great art to show your players, hey, this is what it looks like, so that they can get a little bit more grounded in your world, which is a lot of fun. So we're kickstarting these now. We're on, I think, day 4. It runs through, I think, the 30th of October here, about 10:30 Eastern time in the evening. On the 30th is the ending date. There's no stretch goals listed, although I do have a couple of things in mind that might get announced in the next week or so. But in addition to that, just like in our prior crowdfunding for these, we have created a whole new web app to create a region that you can edit the map and set everything up the way you want. Now, the crowdfunding includes physical tiles for these, as well as you can get the images of these as well as PNGs to use in whatever program you want, although this web app makes it a lot easier for you to work with. So there's a little bit of info about what the current state of the tool is. It is a prototype. And then down here, we give you some instructions about what everything does, so we can close that. Then we can play with this. We can pan around, we could recreate the map and so on. But if we like roughly what we're at, but we want to just change a little bit of terrain, for example, if we wanted to do a forested mountain area here instead of what was there, and then if we wanted to do the forested hills nearby that, we can pick that there, although that's got evergreen trees. So if we want to switch it to have regular trees, or if we want to change where they are roughly. So we've got those options. So you can change the terrain up the way you want it to be done. And then the next thing that I like to do, once my terrain is set in place, I'll go to generate coasts. And this gives you a little bit of a warning. It tells you that, hey, if you've got coasts already, it's going to erase them. So you want to make sure you want to do this, as well as there's a little bit of an issue loading in the coasts where you'll see that they load in awkwardly. So if we just zoom out though, and then we could zoom back in to get to the same zoom level that we were at. You've got your coasts all nicely set up for you automatically. And those are all just features. We have regular features here for different towers and towns and so forth. And then we've also got the water features. And so these here are the coasts, if you wanted to hand place any of them. I should point out that they're centered in the center of the 3 hex region. Each of these tiles is 3 mini hexes across. So to get the placement right, they're all centered in that, like this is the center point of this overall tile and of that particular coastline. But all the other features, your rivers and your towers and such, are centered wherever they look like they're centered. So if we wanted to draw a river, this is the one most tedious part of the whole process. So we'll do a couple of segments here, but not too much. We don't go on too long about it. But if I wanted to place a mouth to a river, I can stick it there. And I got lucky there that it's roughly in the right place. It lines up pretty well with the coastline. But that's not always going to happen, and so we've got some tools to help with that. So let's just take this river segment here next. If I drop that down, in this case, we just need to move it a little bit, it looks like. So I can go to Move Object here and kind of slide that into place. And then if I wanted to go back and just do the next section of that, let's just say it ends there. Now, I do want to make something a little bit more interesting. So if I pick this one here, I'm actually going to have to rotate it. So I just want to show the Rotate tool. This button here is our Scale Rotate Object. And then I click on that. It gives me this little dialog here, and I can start swinging this around. And that's probably roughly how much I need to rotate it. Maybe I can fine tune it a little bit more that way. But I can go back to Move Object, and then I can click on that tile and move it into place, and then continue on. So that's the kind of tedious part of the whole process here. I can go back to adding features though once I had my rivers in place. We've got a lot of cool artwork here. I should point out for this tool, I'm the programmer Joe Wetzel, and then we've got Dyson Logos, of course, created all this art as part of his Autumn Lands, and I think it's Summer Lands, and I think he's starting a new one called Serpent Lands. But he's done a number of maps like that, and we've worked with Dyson for going on 15 years pretty soon on various projects with our dungeon morphs in particular, and he's always good to us, and we always try to be good to him. So when I saw his maps, I was like, hey, these would be great icons. Could we use them? And he said, yeah, here, and not only that, but I'll give you some customized versions of some of these things. So that's what we've got here. And then we've got icons as well of different locations. About half are by Dyson, and then there's some that Dyson just didn't have time to do. So we had another artist, Keith Curtis, come in and do some more icons to match up with locations that look similar to locations in the Hexploration decks. And so if we wanted to have, for example, this desert city over here on the edge, we can stick that there. And we can, I always love this brain building here. I've got to put that on pretty much every demo map that I create. And I stick it in the mountains here. And just like with the other ones, if we wanted to scale or rotate that or anything, we can scale that up. If we want to make it a little bit more prominent or whatever, we can move it around as well, just like what we did with the river there. You can go to your heart's desire. How many do you want to add? You want to add a big city along the coast here? We can do that. We can add this skull fortress here in the middle of the swamp and so forth. And you can build out your campaign setting as much as you like. And like I said, you can look at the cards, the Hexploration cards. Let's flip back to that. And you can find some of these locations that are reminiscent of the icons or vice versa. It's not going to be truly one-to-one, but you're going to find some things that are reminiscent, and maybe we'll be adding some more too. And the final part of the tool is that you can add in roads and borders through the shape tool. And let's say if I wanted to have a gray line to show that there's a pretty major road between a couple of locations, I can then take from this city and build it out to this fort, and then I can deselect, and then I can do more of a trail going from here over to these more remote regions, if you will. Maybe we don't need to go to the brain building, but maybe there's some other village or something out here that we can connect to. And then we also have a creating borders, and If you remember the Mystara maps, borders for those kind of did snap to the borders of hexes. So if you want to do that snap functionality, that's going to snap to your borders of your major hexes here. I can put a border around this hill / mountain region and so on. There's still a lot to be done with this tool. Right now I'm working on an export functionality. So currently you would have to zoom out a little bit and fit it all into your screen and do a screenshot to get the images out. You can load and save a native into the tool, but then to actually export, that's something that we're working on next. And then do we do labels next? Do we do something else? Notes, those kinds of things. We've got our Discord. So if you go to worldographer.com and look for forum, there's a link on there to our Discord. And there we've got a new sub-channel there to talk about the HexLands and Hexploration Decks. And so you can comment in there if you'd like to. It's just gotten started, so there's pretty much nothing there yet, but you can be among the first. So that's what we're making here. Like I said, the primary thing is with the Hexploration decks for that crowdfunding. Each of the 2 decks has 40 location cards like these, and then it's got 10 trait cards like these, and it's actually also got 5 additional reference cards of more general tables or advice information. It might be things like from the prior decks, we've done a weather generator on one card. We did a pirate generator for different pirate types that you might meet, and so forth. They're a little bit dependent on the theme of the overall deck. We're still brainstorming and taking votes in the crowdfunding, so that's one advantage to going there and backing it now, is you get to have a voice in how these final aspects of the project evolve. So I hope that you'll follow that. I'm going to put a link, of course, down below, and hope you'll check it out and consider supporting it. I think that's about all. Hope that's useful for you all. I hope that you're excited about the tool. It's been a lot of fun to see it evolve, and can't wait to get to that, as well as to some other Worldographer stuff and all the things we've got going on. It's always interesting. Every day I wake up, and even if I'm a little bit burnt out on one project, there's another project to work on. In fact, I'm holding back 2 others that I'm also very excited about, but I'm not ready to share. So look for those in the near future. But if you're a fan of a certain age, I think that one in particular is going to be just like, oh my God, that's amazing. But I digress. Anyway, thanks a bunch. Please check it all out.